This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by The Athletic, premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Detroit Sports Podcast listeners can get 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP.
Oh my God!
Welcome to Doc and Jock's Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 11. I'll tell you what, guys. One day, John and I will record everything that we discuss in pre-show prep work because I don't know how you transition from talking about porn stars who were once nurses to now talking about Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure how we make this transition, but one day we'll record all of this and we'll release it as its own podcast. It'll be epic and awesome. What's going on, John?
All I can say is, too sweet, baby. Raw was awesome. And you know what the sad part is?
What?
Getting older, man. I watched Raw from 8 to 10, so I missed it. All of a sudden, I check the report, I check our friends at Breaking Down the Ring, and I see the Bullet Club is reunited. I'm like, no, I missed it. That would have been the highlight of the week. But I saw the video, I saw the replay. I can't believe I'm getting so old I can't even sit through 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, but I have an excuse in that I was deeply invested in college football earlier in the day, and I mean, I was like, holy cow, the Rose Bowl was one of the best college football games that I'd ever seen, so I kind of had wound down for a minute, took a little bit of a nap, then 8 o'clock rolls around, and you're still peeking at Alabama-Clemson, and then you got wrestling going on, and it starts off a little bit slow, but I missed the best part of the week, but Raw, SmackDown, I got to see the majority of it, and 2018's here. I'm looking forward to the road to WrestleMania, starting with the path to the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely. And I guess let's start with what started first, with Raw. So we open the show with Alexa Bliss. She's basically stalking Kurt Angle in the backstage area. She's trying to protest her match against Asuka that's going to take place later on in the night. Kurt basically blows her off and is like, look, it's a non-title match. It could become a title match. Keep egging me on. I've got to go do something. At that point, Kurt walks away from her. He heads down to the ring, and he basically addresses the crowd. He wishes everyone a happy new year, and he goes on to mention that John Cena will be entering the Royal Rumble and says that the women will have the same rules as the men in the Royal Rumble.
30 women.
30 broads.
What do you think about that?
I'm okay with it, but I think 20 would probably have been a better number because I'm not sure how you're going to fill this out. I mean, are you going to be just bringing in girls, like just random?
No, you're going to have girls from NXT probably showing up.
Well, you're going to have to.
And then maybe one or two surprises. Maybe a Trish Stratus, maybe a Lita just kind of pops in for fun.
It might be like 4 or 5 of them that have to pop in because I'm not sure if you have enough women who are ready to tackle that. Like that's a lot of different women. I think there's 15 women on the roster right now. I mean, this is just going off the top of my head. We could sit down and count, but off the top of my head, I think they maybe have 15, right? So then you go to NXT, you maybe have, another 10? Now you're at 25. So you've got to have at least 5 special appearances.
Maybe you have a celebrity. Maybe you just have, someone show up that's not, maybe athletic, but never been in the ring before. So it has an opportunity to kind of surprise the fans and for us to mark out, similar to the men, because what do you remember from a lot of these Rumbles? When Shaq shows up, others that kind of have strolled into the 30-man battle royal. So it'll be fun to see.
Long show up.
Exactly.
Right.
So we'll see how they fill it out. But I'm with you 100%. I would have rolled with 20. But hey, what the men do, the women got to do as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out when the Royal Rumble does take place for both men and women.
So Kurt continues on, and then he's interrupted by the Bar, who are pissed off that they lost their tag belts. They claim it was basically favoritism, and they demand a rematch. They're saying that Jason Jordan was given this opportunity because he's Kurt's son, and they want the rematch right now. Jason Jordan, of course, has to interrupt, and he goes on to say that he earned his shot, and he calls out Cesaro. I felt like this was weird and awkward because he just took shots at Cesaro. Like, Sheamus was doing talking too, and Jason Jordan just singled out Cesaro here. So I thought that was a little bit awkward and weird. Kurt then goes on to make a match between Cesaro and Jordan. At this point, Seth comes down to even out the numbers and tells Jordan to stop being so self-absorbed and get on the same page and be a team player. He says that Jordan's basically been so high on himself because they won the tag belts, and he's been promoting himself so hard that he's not realizing the end game and what the main goal is, and that's to protect the unit and protect those belts. So the match gets started with Cesaro kneeing Jordan in the back through the ropes. Jordan goes shoulder first into the ring post, and Cesaro then takes advantage by chop blocking the knee. And this goes on after quite a little bit of heat that gets exchanged between the two. Cesaro then works over the knee, and that becomes the story of the match, is Cesaro working the knee over. Jordan takes basically 15 minutes of punishment to his knee, and then he basically no-sells the knee injury, which makes no sense to me, right? Like, it was hurting you for a total of 15 minutes, and then you're up and you're walking around on it, and you're going to start suplexing Cesaro all over the place. In the end, Cesaro gains control. Sheamus is about to interfere, but is intercepted by Seth. The distraction is enough for Jordan to hit his finisher for a 3 count. It was an okay match. It moves the storyline along, I guess. The highlight of this point is we then cut backstage for a Renee Young and a Roman discussing Samoa Joe. It was good. It was what it was. It kind of sets the story up there. Bray Wyatt then comes down to the ring for a match against Apollo Crews. And, of course, Titus O'Neil and Dana Brooke are in tow, and they're at ringside. It's a back-and-forth match. It was pretty good. In the end, Bray hits Sister Abigail to win. We then have a Matt Hardy promo. And I want everybody to understand this. I was the biggest Broken Matt Hardy fan ever. You know, when Broken Matt first started in TNA, I would come to the studio and I would tell you all about it.
How awesome it was, how creative it was, how innovative it was.
I would sit there, I'd pull clips up off YouTube. I would tell you, you got to start watching TNA. This is great. It's amazing. It's just so different and so awesome. What they've done with the Matt Hardy, Awoken, Broken, whatever character it is.
Nobody likes it, huh?
It's abysmal. I can't stand it. Some people do, I guess. I don't know. I can't stand it.
It got a pop on Raw.
I can't stand it.
His appearance last week, and then now.
It's not good, man.
No?
Compared to what it was, it is not good. So we have a Matt Hardy promo, and Bray's in the ring. Matt promises to delete Bray, and then to do some weird shit on the screen. They have like a 1,000 mini Matt Hardy faces. It was weird. He was laughing and giggling, and then it blows back up to a big Matt Hardy face. Then it goes away. And Bray's just kind of there with his thumb in his butt. I don't get it, dude. I really don't get it. You know what? In the end, when Jeff comes back, and if they want to do this with Bray, after Matt beats Bray, Bray becomes Matt's Awoken warrior or whatever the hell it is. I think that might be interesting, but you've got to do something different because Matt Hardy has just become a character of himself. It's not interesting. It's not fun. I don't like it. Next, we have the Alexa Bliss versus Asuka match. Alexa looks nervous and all out of sorts as she's getting ready to take on Asuka. I think she does an excellent job of selling her facial features. Like, you can read her emotions through her face and through her body language. She is incredible at doing this. So much so that I stopped watching the show. I paused it. I looked at my wife and I was like, look at her body language and look at her face. She tells a great story. She does a great job. This turns out to be a really, really good match. They both look amazing in it. In the end, they both come off really, really strong. Asuka goes on to win via submission. I think this sets up really, really nicely moving forward. I'm assuming Asuka's going to win the Women's Royal Rumble. And I think she's going to be the one to dethrone Alexa Bliss.
That's the path, and the match was amazing. Both women, you really do believe that they're the top of their game, and the crowd was into it. I felt like, wow, watching these women, I could really kind of pay attention, and I'm not going to click away. I want to see what's going on, and I do like the fact that it wasn't a non-title match because you get a chance to let Asuka win. You get a chance to kind of set the storyline where Alexa Bliss is scared and nervous, and it'll make the WrestleMania moment match really important, and I agree with you. Asuka's the first winner of the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I think it's going to set up really nicely. All right, so now we transition into a Samoa Joe Roman Reigns video package before we go to Renee Young, who looks super annoyed interviewing Samoa Joe. Now, I think this is some of the best work Renee Young is doing, as well as Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, in his vignettes and in his backstage interviews, is so awesome. The intensity is cranked up to like 15. It only goes to 10, but somehow Joe sat there and twisted that knob over a half a turn there, and now we're on a 15. It's incredible. He is awesome in this, and Renee Young does a great job just looking like she wants to punch and slap the living taste out of Samoa Joe's mouth. And again, Joe is taking shots at Dean Ambrose in reference to Renee Young. I thought it was great. We then have Braun Strowman, who comes down to the ring to face Rhino. During the match, he ends up calling Heath Slater out and challenges him to get these hands. It was one of the best one-liners ever. It was great. He's like, you either get off that ring or you come get some of these hands. I'm doing it no justice. You have to find it on YouTube. It's awesome.
Yes.
So Rhino and Slater end up teaming up on Braun, but he crushes both of them. He ends up pinning Rhino for a 3 count, and then he goes on to destroy Rhino and Slater with multiple. When I say multiple, I mean like each of them got 3 or 4 or 5 power slams as the crowd just lost their shit. It was amazing. It was great. Good. It was a wonderful segment. Roman and Seth have a little combo before Jordan comes in to
That
let
was
Roman
funny.
know.
I laughed.
To let Roman know that they have his back if the bar interferes. It was funny. Again, Roman and Seth.
The reactions made
Yes,
it.
it was perfect. They were the reason that was awesome.
Would you be invested in a Seth Rollins versus Jason Jordan feud? Because that's kind of how they set it up in the beginning. Would you be invested in that?
I guess I'm not into the Jason Jordan character right
At all?
now.
Yeah.
Everybody's waiting for him to turn heel. So I think the moment he turns heel, you're interested. Right now, you know where it's going. You're just like, all right, can we get there? You know, it's just, you're like, all right.
Let's get this going.
Yeah, it just kind of, you're just waiting. You're biding time, essentially. We come back from commercial to find Kane begging Braun to team with him against Brock. Now, this really annoys me because it's bad booking. It's bad writing. A few weeks ago, Kane tried to kill Braun Strowman in a garbage truck. And now he wants Braun to team up with him? It makes no sense. These two have been at each other's throat, literally at each other's throat for a month and a half now. But Kane's going to come to him and say, hey, team with me. We can be alpha monsters? The hell's an alpha monster? Anybody know? In the end, Braun tells Kane to go kick rocks. Finn enters the Royal Rumble, and he's going to team with Gallows and Anderson versus the Miztourage later on tonight. And this was awesome. This was awesome. This was the highlight of the show, or what was the lead up to the highlight of the show. Finn was so excited and so happy. If you could see the smile on this man's face, it was nothing but chiclets because he was so geeked, all you seen were teeth.
It was happy.
He's been waiting for this
Yeah.
since he got called up to the main roster, and I think Gallows and Anderson were also waiting for this because they've been toiling away doing a whole lot of nothing. Social media was ablaze with this angle.
Bullet Club, everybody wanted to see it. It was a nice way to start 2018 by seeing this. It's great because now you have a direction for Finn Balor. You make him the leader of this group. You can take it so many different ways, but again, because of what they've done with different characters, this might not be your old school Bullet Club that you're used to. It might be a WWE version, but I hope they don't end the gimmick prematurely.
Yeah, I hope they give it some time and they really build it out. Again, this could be special. This was something that was really special in New Japan, and you can make it special here. Just like you could make Broken Matt Hardy really, really special, but you don't want to. So don't do the same thing to what was the Bullet Club. We end up transitioning over to Joe, who heads into the ring for his match against Roman Reigns for the Intercontinental Championship. This match has a stipulation. The stipulation is Roman can lose his belt if he is disqualified. That's building off of what happened last week. It was a good back-and-forth match. Playing into the match stipulation that Roman could lose that belt if he gets disqualified. At certain points, Roman grabs steel steps like he was going to use them, has to get talked down by the ref. The ref forces a break in the corner where Roman was just being way too aggressive. There was even a ref bump where Roman got pushed into the referee, and the referee thought about disqualifying him. In the end, Roman hits the spear after a few near falls and retains his belt. I thought it was a really good match. I thought it was a little bit long.
Solid.
But I thought it was a really good match. In a vignette, we have Absolution entering the Royal Rumble. We then have Gulak and Daivari, who are in the ring representing a sick Enzo Amore who's at the hospital due to the flu. They end up reading a memo from Enzo until Cedric Alexander comes down to the ring, and he wants to fight. In the end, we have a tag match with Gulak and Daivari versus Cedric Alexander and Goldust. Yes, Goldust. I said Goldust. I thought this was a really fun match. I thought it was really good. I thought it was entertaining. Goldust was the whole reason for it. Goldust
Exactly.
sold it all.
Exactly.
He was great. If any of you grew up with the Attitude Era, Goldust was so instrumental because he was this polarizing character that really made you take a step back and just think, because you weren't sure if he was openly gay, if he was trans. You had no idea what he was. He was a walking enigma. And he sold so advertly just sexuality. It was ridiculous back in the Attitude Era. It was awesome. Cedric ends up pinning Gulak, gets the W. Elias is in the ring. He's strumming a few chords, and he's addressing the crowd. He ends up introducing the Miztourage, who have instruments. They start singing, and it is absolutely brutal, bro.
Yes.
It was bad. It was not good. Thankfully, Gallows and Anderson do interrupt them. Finn then comes down. And again, Finn is extremely happy.
He's very happy with this connection.
So happy. It's a good, quick match. Finn and the crew, of course, get the win. I thought it was awesome.
It's over. People know what it was, and that's all you can ask for is that when you introduce a faction that people do know the history. But it was very interesting, though. WWE did tweet out. They used the hashtag Bullet Club. All of a sudden, it got deleted because I think the original Bullet Club, or the one that's currently in operation,
Young Bucks,
they kind of may have said something.
Yeah, the Young Bucks were. You got to remember too. This goes back to the whole too sweet gesture. WWE claims copyright infringement, so they sent some cease and desist letters to the Young Bucks about using the too sweet. So it's this whole pissing contest between
the
Bullet
end,
Club and Young Bucks.
It's going to be called the Balor Club in the end.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that would make sense.
Yes.
To wrap up the show, Paul Heyman and Brock are in the ring, and Paul basically uses a cut and paste promo. He's basically talking about Kane and Braun and how it's going to be a handicap match and how Brock doesn't even have to get pinned to lose his belt. In the end, Kane comes down. It ends in a dust-up between Kane and Brock. Brock ends up getting chokeslammed. As Kane's leaving the ring, Brock sits up, smiles, and laughs after the chokeslam, similar to what he did in his WrestleMania match against The Undertaker. They end up in a melee. Everybody has to empty out from the back. I thought Raw was okay. I thought it had some really high points, and I felt like the rest was just a lot of filler.
100%. I felt like you now have some direction for some high-end characters in terms of Finn Balor and what they're going to do with the Balor Club. You have an opportunity to see where The Bar, Seth Rollins, and Jason Jordan. It's interesting now. I want to know who's going to be contending with Roman Reigns for the Intercontinental belt. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, fell asleep at 10 o'clock. Had to watch the rest of it via DVR, but I like the way it's set up for an initial show January 1st, 2018. It's another year, and basically, when you look at it, WWE train, it just keeps on rolling, and you got to either, you can follow it or you can take some time off. I'm still on board. I like where they're going with it. Obviously, the Doc and Jock stock watch and some of these wrestlers are different, but in the end, I like the direction with the majority of the angles that are going down on Raw.
As far as Finn and Gallows and Anderson are stock watch wise,
up.
I think so.
Way
If they keep them together, I hope it's not one of those one-off situations.
Exactly.
And would you be opposed to WWE having a 6-man tag belt? So like ROH has a 6-man tag belt.
Right.
I think New Japan also does. So basically, it's like 3-on-3, right?
Yep.
So you'd have 3 tag team championship belts. So you could have like New Day involved in that. You could have Balor Club.
That's what I was going to say.
The Miz Taraj.
No, I'm not a fan of that at all. No, not a fan.
I would say I wouldn't be opposed to it. All right, let's move over to SmackDown. So AJ Styles opens SmackDown and he calls out Daniel Bryan. Shane McMahon comes down immediately. Like, Daniel gets to the ring, and then Shane's music hits, and he is there, Johnny on the spot. Essentially, it becomes a pissing contest, with AJ just kind of milling about in the background. Out of this golden shower, we found out that Kevin Owens, Shane, and Daniel will all be at ringside when AJ takes on Sami Zayn later on in the night. It was just there. I guess it set up the rest of the evening.
18 minutes, man. That was long.
It was, you didn't need it all, but it sets it up for what's going to happen later on. All right, so then we have a really, really good tag match. It's Shelton and Chad Gable. They're taking on the Usos. It was a pretty quick match.
Some controversy.
That ended with some controversy, as Shelton and Chad are named new tag team champions. Another ref comes out and comes down to the ring. They go to the Titantron so they can watch the replay, and the replay shows that the legal men were not in the ring for the pin.
Thumbs down.
Originally what happened was Chad ends up pinning, I believe it was Jey Uso. I get them confused. Ends up pinning Jey Uso when it should have been Shelton and Jimmy inside the ring. So we have a restart to the match, and the Usos end up taking advantage of the restart, and they retain their belts.
Replay in professional wrestling, it jumped the shark. Right then and there, I cringed. I said, this is ridiculous. Don't take this angle. You got wrestling. You've done, restarts before. You could have just had Daniel Bryan come out and say, no, we know what's going on. This was incorrect, and just go back and do it. You've done it before. I don't like it. I don't want to see replay in scripted entertainment.
But I think I think it sets up. I get what you're saying, but I think it sets up. It sets up for a match at the Royal Rumble, and I think that's what they're going for here. I think you're going to see Shelton and Chad take on the Usos for the belts, and don't be surprised if you see the belts change hands there.
Yeah,
you're going to have next week will probably be some build, and then you'll probably have another match where something crazy is going to end up happening, and then you're going to get to the Royal Rumble, and that's when it's all going to kind of come to an end. And it's going to be interesting because right now the way the crowd popped, and I think that's what it was. It was a feel out. Let's see how this works, and the crowd pops so hard for these guys. So I think at this point, WWE knows which direction they want to go into. They've got their answer, and you can see this happening down the line. Breezango comes out to take on the Bludgeon Brothers. This match never started as the Bludgeon Brothers destroyed Breezango.
Yet again.
The Ascension ends up coming out to help, and they're basically sent packing. So it was a really, really quick. It was just there for filler. You got basically 6 guys on camera, and that was it. Aiden English takes on Xavier Woods in a U.S. Championship tournament match. Rusev basically serenades the WWE Universe with a song about Aiden English winning the U.S. Championship. It was a match. I wasn't invested in it. Woods ends up hitting an elbow from like across the ring for a 3 count. It was what it was.
I mean, the U.S. title tournament you think would have a little bit more prestige, but when you got Aiden English and Xavier Woods, it just kind of seems like, you could have maybe did without these guys. But in the end, you got to have a tournament, and this is what it was. It was basically a 2-star match.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. We then have the welcoming committee, which, of course, consists of Natalya, Lana, Tamina, and Carmilla. They're taking on the Riot Squad in a 6-woman tag match. I was not interested in this. But in the end, Tamina heads to the top rope. Liv Morgan pushes her off the top rope. Ruby Riott distracts the referee. That's how Liv was able to get that push in there. And this buys Sarah Logan enough time to basically hit her finish and pin Tamina. Whatever. After the match, though, the Riot Squad enters the Royal Rumble. Charlotte interrupts and brings out Naomi. And at this point, I am on the edge of my seat because I know who's coming next. And I start screaming for her to come out. And it's Becky Lynch. I popped so hard. I love Becky Lynch.
She was at the WWE house show in Detroit last week, and people were really surprised, so I had a feeling she would show up on this week's SmackDown.
I popped so hard for her.
Yes.
Riot Squad.
Welcome back.
Yep.
Becky Lynch.
Riot Squad was basically destroyed. Becky hits the Bexploder on Ruby and Liv and just sends them all packing. It was awesome. It was welcome back, Becky.
DocNJock stock watch has to be up for Becky Lynch. It's time for her to get her legitimate push. I mean, she's been in the title picture before, but at the same time, you can see that she's a little bit a cut above the other women. She can do some things with a little bit more athleticism as well as that sexy flair.
Yeah, the sexy flair. Can you say that again? Sexy flair.
Sexy flair. Becky Lynch.
Can I let you in a little bit of information? So, was it Kevin Dunn, the guy for WWE, who's like in the back? He's like the production guy. He didn't like Becky Lynch's accent. So you remember when she was champion? He wanted her to have less promo time, so he basically cut her promos. That's why you don't ever see her talk anymore, because he doesn't like her accent. He's such an idiot. Such an idiot.
Really?
She is so
awesome.
over.
Yeah.
Like, Becky's over, Charlotte's over. There's a few women who are super over, and
let her talk.
You got this dummy who's like, no, I don't like her accent. Shut up, bro. We then have a promo that I can't wait for it to be over, and that's with Baron Corbin, who enters the Royal Rumble. In this promo, he says, I can't wait, like 15 times. That's why I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Next.
So then we have the AJ Styles match. This is the main event for the evening. AJ Styles comes to the ring for his match against Sami Zayn. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon then follow by Zayn and Owens. By the way, they're heading to commercial, and they do this cutaway where they're kind of low on the ground and they're shooting up at AJ Styles. Did you see how empty the upper bowl was on the camera side?
Yeah, I saw.
Like, SmackDown never sells out. It blows my mind, because I think out of the 2 shows, SmackDown is probably the better show. The match starts off with the 2 basically just trading heat. Like, nobody has the upper hand here. It just goes back and forth, back and forth. It's good and it's nice, but nobody's getting the upper hand here. In the end, the ref tumbles out of the ring, and Owens goes to check on the ref, and he's standing between the referee and the ring. And Owens is essentially preventing the ref from getting back in the ring to make a 3 count while AJ is pinning Sami Zayn. Shane comes over and pushes Owens down and demands he be ejected from the ringside. The ref obliges and tosses KO. Daniel Bryan then gets on the microphone and tosses Shane, says, you know what? If Kevin's going, you're going too. During this entire distraction, AJ gets hit with a haluva kick and then gets pinned by Sami Zayn. And this upset you, and I understand this upset you, all right? But it's not over yet. So pissed off, AJ Styles grabs a mic, and he demands a handicap match against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
And the way they played it off was like he probably wanted on next week's SmackDown.
That was exactly how it was. But Daniel Bryan sets it up for the Royal Rumble.
And I'm like, no. Listen,
so now
last
it's a
year's
title match.
Do you know what the 2017 match of the year was? AJ Styles versus John Cena at Royal Rumble. It set the tone for a great year.
Right.
John Cena's probably best match in a couple years. You got AJ Styles. You don't need to feature him with 2 other dudes because you've done it in other pay-per-views. You just did it a couple months ago at Hell in a Cell. you got a situation where you got a superstar in AJ Styles. I don't think you need to feature him in terms of, having him do these 3-way title matches. I know it makes him elevated if he does retain it, and there's a chance maybe you could surprise everybody and shock the world and maybe put the belt on Sami Zayn to kind of put over the heel faction over there with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. But I totally disagree with not utilizing a superstar to his fullest potential. AJ Styles is 40 years old. You're only going to have him for maybe 3 or 4 more peak years before he's got to start slowing down, okay? Matt Hardy's 43, and you can see the difference in AJ Styles. So
Matt Hardy's got a bum hip, too.
Yeah, but AJ Styles, I don't know, can he keep this up for another 10 years? No, but you want to see him in big matches at big events. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, all should be featured matches with anybody with AJ Styles. That's what it should be for the next 2 years. But now you got this, and they're going to play up both these guys attacking AJ. So you're going to probably see AJ take a beating throughout the Royal Rumble, which is fine. He's going to get his stuff in, but I would rather see a match similar to what I saw last year.
Let me ask you this. If in the end, if this whole thing builds, right, and if it builds to a match at WrestleMania where you've got AJ Styles taking on Shinsuke Nakamura for the championship, are you okay with that? Are you willing to give up a little bit now at the Royal Rumble for what you could get at WrestleMania?
Did you see Kenny Omega's blast of Nakamura?
Yeah.
He said he hasn't had a meaningful match.
Yeah, and
so
it's true. It's because WWE's booked him so poorly.
I feel like,
He's an entrance. We were saying that after week 2.
Yeah, and so do you want Nakamura's taking off point to be at the expense of AJ Styles? I feel like he's a year away.
I just want next year. I just want a really awesome match.
A really awesome match would potentially be Finn Balor versus AJ Styles. That's the match.
You've already had that.
But you could have a better match at WrestleMania.
There's no way you can make that happen because they're on different brands.
Everybody would love to see Nakamura take on AJ Styles. It's just when you look at it, Nakamura's not at that level yet. He's still a mid-card guy. So you can shoot him to the moon and get him to that point, but I'm not in favor of it. I think AJ Styles needs the top guy on SmackDown. Who's that? Who's the top guy besides AJ Styles? Is it Kevin Owens? You don't want to do that at WrestleMania. See, that's the problem, is that you don't really have the next big guy on SmackDown. That's why I was in favor of AJ maybe kind of careening over to Raw, but that's just fantasy booking.
That's why I'm telling you what's going to end up happening. Nakamura wins the Royal Rumble.
People are talking about it. There's a little bit of a buzz in house shows, yep.
And then what ends up happening is you have that for WrestleMania. I think it sets up for a beautiful WrestleMania.
Okay.
All right? I think right now you just kind of you got to wait through this. Who is a top heel on SmackDown right now? Who? It's Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is the best heel you have on SmackDown.
Oh, dude, do you mean maybe Nakamura wins the Rumble?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
I saw the build-up just to have the match. Okay.
No. Nakamura wins the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
There's your build for WrestleMania. All right.
Nah.
You gotta wade through this right now. Who's the best heel that they have?
Yeah.
It's not Jinder anymore.
No.
Don't be surprised if Jinder wins the U.S. title.
Yeah.
I think that would be the perfect belt for Jinder.
Yeah, of course.
I would say thumbs up all day long for Jinder winning that belt.
Yeah.
I think that would fit him perfectly. Okay.
I just don't see Nakamura winning it, man. Come on. Winning the Royal Rumble. That'd be tough.
See it.
Yeah, you could see it. Huh?
I could see it.
I don't even see it. I didn't even hear it.
I could see it happening. Okay, so here's the verdict. What do you got? What do you like better? Which one were you more sold on?
When you introduced the Balor Club, I liked everything Raw did. I felt like SmackDown was a show that could have been a lot better. I hated the ending. I didn't like a lot of the parts of the show, the 20-minute promo to start the match. So I gave it to Raw this week.
See, I think with Raw, I like the...
Just on the sole basis of the Balor Club. You have a major gimmick.
That was a high spot.
Yep.
It was definitely a high spot, but I also thought a high spot was Becky Lynch coming back. Do you know what I'm saying? I thought the Alexa Bliss Asuka match was really, really good. I'm so in love with the Samoa Joe backstage promos with Renee Young. I think those are awesome. The Roman Reigns Samoa Joe match was really, really good. It was cool to see Finn and the crew get back together from the Bullet Club, so I thought that was awesome. As far as SmackDown goes, I thought it was cool to see Shelton and Chad maybe win, and then they get pulled away, because I think it sets up a really nice story. And then I was so in love with Becky coming back. I thought that was great. I really want to give it to SmackDown, but I think you're right. I think Raw had a little bit more going for it, so I'll give it to Raw. All right, so Raw leads 9.5 to 8.5. Mm-hmm. I love the halves. Mm-hmm. All right, so news and notes. Last week during a house show in New Jersey, Paige was injured when Sasha Banks kicked her in the back. It's believed she suffered a mild stinger. Mm-hmm. She has yet to be cleared to participate. That's why you got a vignette with her in Absolution entering into the Royal Rumble. Enzo was pulled from the Mixed Match Challenge due to being sick with the flu. Now, that's why he wasn't at Raw this week, and that's why he couldn't face Cedric Alexander. Now, the Mixed Match Challenge is coming in a few weeks. So Enzo's not going to be sick in a few weeks. So this seems like there might be some legit heat on Enzo with some of the higher ups, and there's probably a reason that's just not coming out yet why Enzo is being pulled from this. So stay tuned to that. And finally, Rusev is rumored to be getting a big push. And when I say a big push, very big, like Jinder Mahal type push.
Winning, baby, winning ways.
And it's going to be
Mike
happening
time.
very, very soon.
I think it's well deserved. He's put in his time. He's a believable. He's a believable character, and people. He's over.
He's so over right now. And you know what? He might be the biggest. He's supposed to be a heel, but he is embraced like a babyface.
Yep.
He might be the biggest heel that SmackDown has. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Kevin Owens is probably your best legit heel, but Rusev is so over right now. So that's all we got, man. That's all I got. As far as news and notes
week
and rumors.
of wrestling. Looking forward to the build-up to the Royal Rumble. Stay tuned here each and every Friday. Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thanks for everybody's support. If you like this podcast and you like the others, continue to support us. Free and easy way, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. See everybody next week.
So January 6th, Access TV, they'll be re-showing the high points from Wrestle Kingdom 12. So check that out if you're a huge Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho fan.
You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast.